Chapter 7, A Public Policy Proposal. It was during this peaceful time on the farm that Crystal began to make more time for the universe. Their immediate home was built, and only minor things needed finishing. They had made it through the winter and were in full swing of a glorious summer ahead. The first major task was the business. They were not getting many clients through the woodworking website and needed something that would work. Still doing used IBC tank sales, Crystal realized it would be easier to handle one business than the multiple streams she had been juggling. The finished woodwork, water tanks, and farm goods would all get listed together under the umbrella of sustainable living. That is, after all, what they were trying to do and promote. The website was developed and research was done. It was discovered that the United Nations had decided 2024 was the year of living sustainably. They had developed 17 goals that needed to be met by 2030, and encouraging sustainable living was one of them. We are living as if there is a planet B, and there isn't. There is only a world. So they developed an app to give sustainable living tips, education, and incentive. Crystal added it to the website, seeing as how their goals were in harmony, and once again sent an email to the United Nations, this time asking for the use of their logo and partnership. Since the website was meant to aid the whole community, as everyone had their own individual talents and skills, and had either a good or a service to offer the marketplace, everyone benefited from an online market. There grew hopes that if communities came together to list their goods, they could create a fair pricing model. Crystal began more work on her family history to write a book about this amazing family. She started with her great-grandfather this time, as she had never looked into his family. What she discovered was a revelation that could only be interpreted as serendipitous. Crystal was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Sir Alexander Tillott Galt, the Confederate father of Canada. He had suggested the Confederation and turned down the role as first Prime Minister to handle the financial affairs of the country. His father was none other than John Galt, Scottish novelist and poet, and fellow Canadian developer. This was terribly ironic, as Crystal had emailed politicians in the past asking them to please reinstate the Dominion Lands Act of Canada, the same act her great-great-great-grandfather had introduced. One day, the Facebook algorithm brought Crystal an ad for a contest. It was the Hunter Prize seeking public ideas to help the housing crisis. Surprisingly, there was an age restriction, and Crystal met the cutoff by 7 months as her 40th birthday approached. She wrote the policy in a day, sought a review from her sister-in-law, as she'd proven herself very worthy of having great advice. She suggested things to mention that could bring up questions. It was finished, then proofread and edited. When ready for submission, Crystal realized it needed to be in a separate format and could not submit her proposal as written. The 1,500 words were separated into a memorandum for cabinet-style appeal. The email was sent and the wheels were set in motion. Memorandum to Cabinet. Title: Historically Proven Solutions for a Global Housing Crisis. Issue: a global housing crisis is denying individuals the basic rights of fresh food, clean water, warm shelter, and space to grow. Recommendations: that Canada reinstitute an updated Dominion Lands Act. Oops. Here we go. Nope, sorry. Where am I? Reinstitute an updated Dominion Lands Act to offer leased land for sustainable homesteading efforts in exchange for building an eco-friendly, self-sustainable home, and provide care and upkeep as a steward of the land. Self-sustainable, culturally diverse communities will grow in remote regions of Canada, offering a new era of opportunity to build a home and explore new regions with environmental respect. Updating the Dominion Lands Act gives an opportunity to reconcile Indigenous rights to Crown land, working together as a United Nations to live sustainably for a better future for all Canadians. Problem overview. Urban centers do not have enough housing or developed land to offset the extreme cost of housing and rise in Canada's population. Urban centers typically have older infrastructure and are already strained by overpopulation. Current development methods for urban centers devastate ecosystems and do not have independent sustainable farms, leading to a higher dependency on foreign supply chains and increased CO2 emissions from transportation. Current building methods are not feasible on the large scale required to provide housing to all Canadians now and in the future. Rural natural resources require workers to leave their families and live in camps for weeks at a time, making a personal home life unattainable. These natural resources are typically Crown land, managed federally and provincially. Canadians are not free, as there is no land available to be free upon. There is no land where we can grow our own food and live sustainably. There is an immense strain on urban centers with nowhere else for individuals to go. The housing crisis affects more Canadians than just the individuals we see living in the streets. Young people have no hope for a future where they can create a life of their own, and parents despair for their children that are denied the possibilities given to the generations before us. Proposed policy solution. In 1872, Canada instituted the Dominion Lands Act of Canada, enabling migrants and immigrants an opportunity to create a home in this great country. It was my great-great-great-grandfather, Alexander Galt, the father of Confederation, that dreamed of a strong, united Canada that offered homes and business opportunities for Canadians willing to work hard. By reinstating the Dominion Lands Act of Canada, we can offer an opportunity to individuals to be modern-day stewards of the land. Each of these actions contributes to the change needed to solve an alternate issue pressing on Canada that needs immediate attention. This offers not only a home, but also a sense of pride in individual efforts and newly built communities. Creating farming communities centered around natural, eco-friendly solar farms, food farms, wind farms, hydro dams, and other natural resources would have global value and positively impact the environment while creating self-sustainable, prosperous communities. Housing solutions are typically met with legal barriers, as municipalities have existing laws that deny the possibility of new affordable housing. By creating new communities, these existing laws can be circumvented. With the environment as the foundation of new municipal laws and the Indigenous peoples of Canada's guidance, individuals will be able to live in harmony with nature. In our common era, we don't need 160 acres per household. We also have scientists and Indigenous elders to help us live sustainably with the land and not harm precious, sensitive ecosystems. We don't need to clear-cut land to develop it. We need individuals to care for the land and live in harmony with it. Other countries could follow Canada's lead by offering commercially devastated lands to individuals to replant with native species, earning their space by healing the land. Deforestation is a global problem, and although Canada has a great majority of the coniferous forests of the north, we faced forest fires as a concern. So individuals' efforts to be a steward of the land could include replanting diverse species in burned regions. Urban centers are facing overpopulation affecting every age and walk of life. With homelessness visible on the streets, their industrious nature and willingness to live alternatively can be seen in the recycled structures they build. Young people finishing high school are unable to find affordable housing options, making post-secondary education unattainable without high student debt. New families are wanting to live a more wholesome, sustainable lifestyle and are unable to afford buying land in populated areas with available employment. With global investors buying up available properties, we need to make new land available for the purpose of living sustainably. By having new communities, overpopulation in urban centers is relieved and allows more housing options for the individuals that do wish to live, work, and pursue education in these cities. Considerations and the path forward. Globally, the United Nations is working to encourage sustainable living for the future of our society and the planet. While individual groups within Canada have made great efforts to live sustainably, the federal government itself has not undertaken any large-scale initiatives to encourage sustainable living among Canadians. With global efforts aimed at making positive changes in alternative housing techniques, Canada could adopt these new building techniques as part of the revived Dominion Lands Act. With farming and technology coming together, we can end Canada's food dependency on foreign countries and be prepared for local states of emergency. Having farming communities practicing sustainable permaculture farming techniques like no-till farming or food forests creates an opportunity for individuals to grow their own food source. It should be an individual's right to grow, collect, and store food, yet it takes shelter and space to do so. Critics can argue that the housing market could crash by offering alternative housing options. However, these are individuals who choose to live an alternative lifestyle in harmony with nature, and this should be encouraged by Canada. Canada has 2.2 billion acres of Crown land available to create sustainable communities. By being a steward of the land, individuals can have the opportunity to build their own home and earn the land lease through efforts to clear flammable debris from the area and provide general upkeep of the property. This also helps aid in Canada's forest fires and mitigate states of emergency. By working with local Indigenous peoples, new migrants can learn to live in harmony with nature and respect our planet. By using new sustainable housing techniques, we can house the huge increase in immigration as Canada's policies are currently encouraging. Canada already has instituted a carbon tax on Canadians, which could aid in funding. Businesses and nonprofit organizations with carbon-reducing goals could contribute, keeping funding within Canada to further help all Canadians. By creating new sustainable communities, new business opportunities arise in the form of local community markets, creating a sustainable loop with less transportation required, reducing CO2 emissions. This alleviates another pressing issue in Canada. Canada needs to reconcile with the Indigenous peoples of Canada over the management of Crown lands, and the Dominion Lands Act was the first act to recognize Indigenous rights. Canada needs a new Dominion Lands Act, written in union with the Indigenous leaders. Chapter 8.